Hello, everybody. Welcome to my show, Political Discourse, right here with Rimon Mahmoud from Toronto. In one of my previous and in fact the first video of this series, I spoke about our Prime Minister, who seems to be in everybody's mind nowadays. So, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, how is he performing? That's what I covered. And as of now, I say that very consciously because tomorrow is not certain. It may change. Canada is performing quite well in terms of managing, or at least the efforts that is putting in facing this tough time. World is going through a crisis and COVID-19 is wreaking havoc everywhere. And compared to US led by Donald Trump, Justin Trudeau did make some mark. And he is being seen as the moral leader of the world, something that didn't come to Canada very easily, very often, and especially being overshadowed by the US diplomacy and US presence in every sphere of the political international field wherever Canada is there. However, Canada had been performing very well. Take it from me, right? Now, in this series, I'm going to talk about Doug Ford. Now, before I start talking about his performance, it is important to know a little bit about him for those who may not be knowing who he is, if there is any. Doug Ford is the current Premier of Ontario. He is also the brother of late Rob Ford. There is a reason I mentioned about Rob Ford. Rob Ford was elected mayor of Toronto from 2010 to 2014. Now, he was not very close, or he was not endeared by the media, or not a media person. And there had been some strong emotion against the activities that or the policies of late Rob Ford. But it is also true, Rob Ford had a very strong following, and the word Ford Nation was coined just from that. And today, still, Ford Nation, they prevail, and they are very much around Doug Ford. Doug Ford was councillor for 3 months, and then fate brought him where he is. He became the Premier of Ontario. Now, as Premier, with some of the policies, some of the decisions that he took, he didn't endear himself to the politicians, but people possibly somewhere liked it, somewhere loved it, and some didn't. For example, he slashed the Council of Toronto by half. Absolutely something that is still pending to be judged in the Supreme Court. Aside from that, he has taken some strong decisions in the sector education. He has cut some funding, some universities here and there. But at the same time, he didn't waver to take actions at point in time where he felt that government needs to move in to slash budget, to save budget or money. That was his perspective, not mine. I'm just telling what he did. Now, as a result, there was this roar all around. Ford is not good. Ford is wrecking the ship. Ford is doing this. Ford is doing bad. And especially the community that I come from. I'm an immigrant. I came from Bangladesh. Now, Bangladeshi Canadians, I have to say my observation, the community overall is a little more inclined towards the liberal. Why do I say that? There is a reason for that. Now, you have to understand, in the immigration community in Canada, what matters to them most is how government treats the immigrants. And in that, liberals, they fare pretty well. Although liberals or the immigration matter is dealt at the seat of government, which sits in Parliament, Ottawa. However, at federal level, people sometimes project that view or that importance or that association with the provincial level of government, even though provincial government do not dictate the immigration policy of the country. You and I possibly know that. Now, overall, I had been observing the discourse that was going through in Bangladeshi Canadian community, and we can possibly interpolate that or extend that observation to other immigrant community as well. However, was I surprised with the Ford performance? Possibly no, but before I say that, let's see some of the paper, what they said about Mr. Ford. Here is from Randall Denley from National Post. He writes, Ford made right call to release Ontario COVID-19 projection. Much tougher decision lies ahead. If you go to Toronto, CBC, if I'm not wrong, yes, CBC, it says Doug Ford's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic draws praise from friends, of course, and foes. That's surprising. Friends and foes both equally praising Doug Ford. Let's go to the next, which is Toronto Star, a traditionally liberal-friendly paper, and in fact supports liberal, to my observation. Here Bob Hepburn writes, surprise, surprise, Doug Ford is performing well. Well, that is something quite a strong an endorsement of his performance. If you go to National Post back again and Chris Selly, she writes, Doug Ford's COVID-19 performance lays waste to the caricatures of his critics. Come back to the last one, I will note, it is TVO. Now, I do disagree with TVO a little bit, let me tell you. So here, Steve Pekin, who is very respected in the media world, and I'm a fan of him. He writes, the biggest political surprise of the COVID-19 crisis, he asks, Doug Ford. But am I surprised? Possibly no. Here is why. I have not been watching actually Doug Ford's activities very keenly because of circumstances around me. Now, I did note his brother Rob Ford was a people's man, and that's why he got elected. He was a poor people's mayor, something that our elite media kind of put it under the shelf. Even at that point in time, if you have marked Rob Ford, the humane aspect, that his ability to mix with the people, simple people, taking call and things like that was never questioned. I think brother, some similarities. Doug Ford is considered, to me at least, I felt that he was very close to people. And I happened to have met him in one of the events, and there, as I spoke to him, I did find somebody who is very keen to listen, who is empathetic as well, something we didn't possibly see in few of his policies. We'll not talk about his policies, which is right or wrong, but today it's about COVID. Now, in terms of COVID, Doug Ford, why people are saying that he's performing well? In this case, now let's go what really he did. Tomorrow is a long holiday, long weekend, right? What did Doug Ford did that is special about it? Something very small, but something very significant. What he did, in his speech, he recognized the problems that is being faced by our frontline workers, frontline operators, the grocery shop, the TTC, and all those who are serving us. They were keeping this country, this city moving. What he did, he appealed to the people. He made a very strong call, and he said, on Friday and on Sunday, these 2 days, if I'm not wrong, the shops will be closed completely. Why? Because he said these frontline workers, they need a break. Think about that. Thinking for the people from heart to heart. Now, when there was a price gouging, that something, a hand sanitizer was being sold at the price of possibly $30 plus minus, he was very strong. He called it out as he must, and he was bold. He said that his government will take all the steps against that. Now, these are just two individual things, but did you see the picture of Ford in various media and papers, possibly, where he found that someone was donating 95,000 masks or something like that, and then what he did? He didn't call his driver, his operating staffs, people around him, they are supporting him. What he did, he drove his car, that's what I gathered, and straightway went there, jumped into it, started picking them up, and wanted to deliver it to the hospital because Ontario was going through crisis at that point in time. Now, think about yesterday's press conference, yesterday or day before. What he said, Ontario had been conducting tests 3,000 per day, which is far below what we should be expecting. And yesterday, again I'm saying, check the date, he said there is no more excuse. What he did, he said, from today, we have all the abilities, and hospitals and others should continue to test 13,000 complete 13,000 COVID tests in a day. That is a big thing. In one of the press conferences I have watched, media personalities asking him, would you like to accept your mistake for this and that? He was very blunt. And he said, well, I'm not here to talk about the mistakes. I agree that there are mistakes. Our job is to learn from the mistakes of the past and move forward and engage or implement the learning, right? He was very bold. He didn't sidestep the question. He didn't say that, okay, try to defend it, but he also accepted his mistake. Where? Remember a few weeks back when this corona crisis was going and Donald Trump on the South was telling people it's not really big and will be going, everything will be okay and all these things. At that point in time, plus minus, I don't exactly recall the time, Duckworth told people, you can go out somewhere in March break, you can enjoy and things like that. But that was not the right call. In 2 days or 3 days, he realized that that was a mistaken call. As a leader should be bold to accept his mistake, error in decision or judgment. He did. In 2 or 3 days, he came back and he to acknowledge, and that's why possibly, if I'm not wrong, he said that COVID crisis is bigger than what we think, and we must talk about it. We must face it boldly. He wanted to put everything that he could behind this fight. Now, Randall Denley, he said that Ford made the right call to release Ontario COVID projections. Now, if you recall, a few days back, he made public the COVID-19 projections from the experts. That's something which differentiates from Trump. Here, he is relying on experts, the doctors, the scientists, unlike possibly South, that we see much. Hopefully, we'll see the same thing in the South as well. Initially, the projection was given to him, and sometime around Monday, if I'm not wrong, or plus minus, he told, I do have the projection, but I am not going to release it, because he was afraid because of the projected thing. And for a leader to tell that I am going to be afraid or this may create panic, if not afraid, he said that it will create panic, that itself actually creates panic. People started asking, is Ontario not ready? Within 2 or 3 days, he corrects his mistake and he declares that this is the projection. In that, what I like, he said, the information that I am privy to, that I have right to see, you the Ontarians, you have the right to see that. And so he releases the projection that up to 15,000 people could die from this COVID crisis under worst case scenario. Now, that has worked like a magic because now we know the number and we understand the significance of the problem. So people started paying heed. Now, I was listening to Ford, his press conference, actually to understand him a little more because I know, like me, most of you are focusing on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And Justin Trudeau had been doing very well. So before talking to you and giving possibly a rating to Ford's performance as of today, I decided let me hear what he's saying. I listened to his full press conference. What was surprising for me is how he was taking backseat, putting his 2 ministers up, okay, who are the experts and who are doing very well, and his empathy. I saw the same thing. Anybody listening to him would say that he cares for the people. He cares for the Ontarians as of now. More importantly, he is a conservative, I know, everybody knows. He is a blue, and on the other side, the red liberals are there. Usually, they don't go very well toe-to-toe. And at the same time, we know that there are some activities, there are some decisions where they actually differ or oppose each other like anything. Talk about the carbon tax. Right now, Ford has taken the government to the court for carbon tax, and right now it is in the Supreme Court to be decided. Now, if that is the case, how do you expect Ford and Justin Trudeau, per se, to work together? Surprise! This case, it is completely different. Ford had been nothing but an ideal partner in fighting COVID-19 along with Justin Trudeau. Not only that, the Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland and Ford, they started talking with each other and looks like lovingly. Okay, Ford said that till every night I do talk with her and we are moral support of each other. That's what we want to see, the citizens of Canada. We love it. He said yesterday in his press conference that the federal government, the Chrystia Freeland, is doing an incredible job, and so is our Prime Minister. That's something coming from a conservative premier to the Prime Minister who is leading the Liberal government. This is something we wanted to see. Another thing we loved, which is when Donald Trump, the President of the United States, decided unilaterally to stop shipment of masks to Canada. That is surprising. How did our political people react? But before that, those who are watching, if you know the history of Canada, Canada and US walked side by side, and there are many times in the war against terror, in the world wars, and many others. I can cite examples one after another where Canada had been walking and supporting and helping the US. And so for US to unilaterally cut off this shipment of masks from 3M, that was not a friendly gesture. That is not what friends do. But, well, when Donald Trump did that, every premier of the country, almost, they spoke in unison. And it is said, and I do believe, Donald Trump, thanks to you, you unified our Canadian leaders under what platform? In saying no to America. You don't do like that. And so Ford was upfront over there calling out actually Donald Trump, and US friends don't behave like that. And so we find after a few days, either for quiet diplomacy or because of the shout, Donald Trump, whatever way, decided not to implement or execute that. That's what happens when you are together. Overall, I personally think Ford is doing very good. And at the same time, I do think he is garnering praise from right, left, and center, all together, for his outstanding activities until now. I like the fact that he is working with everybody, all colors of politics. I like the fact that he has left bipartisanship out of the window and said that it is Team Canada approach. I like the fact that he is talking with everybody together. I like the fact that he is moving mountains, and whatever Ontario could do to support the Ontarians. And I do like the fact that he is talking from heart to heart. There are many things I can go on, but for the moment, in terms of facing this COVID-19, I do believe Ford is doing an outstanding job. Would I rate him A+, or A, or A-, B, B+? What should I rate? You tell me. Before doing that, let me just tell you, I did run some poll, and in my Facebook wall, I did ask people about how Ford is doing. If I can, I would like to bring up something. Let's see if I can find it out. I was not planning for that. So in the Facebook, I did ask, what do you think about Ford performance right now, right? There are some strong comments, positive, very positive. There are some, of course, Ford doesn't elicit or bring out that sort of emotion that we see from people when it comes to Trudeau. You have to say Trudeau and Ford, they belong to two different league. So let me just go through some of the comments, and these are from the members of Bangladeshi Canadian community, right? So let me go through one by one, okay? The question was, how is Doug Ford doing? Now, keep in mind, similar to this, I ran also a poll asking the same question for our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. In both cases, in case of Justin Trudeau, we had garnered about 700 response, and in case of Ford, it's 60. Now, this difference between the two is understandable given the inclination of the community as a whole towards liberal. But in case of Ford, 55%, which is surprising, actually supported what he is working. They told he is doing excellent. I'm very happy with what he is doing. And also around 20% said, I did not vote for him, but I like what he is doing right now. Now, I did ask, how do you judge actually Ford or some of the comments? I will read through some of the comments. Tanya Kaji wrote, he is just doing wonderful. Mizan Rahman, he is doing fantastic job. Fazle Rabbi, he says, he seems like a complete different person during COVID-19 crisis. Seems a very responsible leadership. Muhammad Imrul Bari Chaudhry, he wrote, he is doing a phenomenal job for Ontarians. Hats off, he earned my respect. Nasrin Imtiaz, she said, he is doing an excellent job. Shaheen Akt Uddin, he said, I did not like him at all before the pandemic. Baka beer, horse race, and so on. Some of the things, policies that people didn't like, or some at least didn't like. Now, he wrote, He is handling everything like a pro with the situation right now. I'm proud now of what he's doing and trying to do for Ontario. And then there is a picture as well of him. Duke Hassan writes, impressive. If I am allowed, I take just a little more time to read some of the comments. Some of the comments that actually, where I have to mention, were not very friendly and favorable to him. But overall, I do think Ford has made his mark. I will end this actually with a quote from somebody who actually does liberal in terms of politics. He writes, and his name is Dan Moulton, Vice President at Crestview Strategy and former senior staff member in the previous Liberal government. He writes, I'm a Liberal, but I'll give Doug Ford a lot of credit. He is handling this really well. He goes on to write, he is being transparent, responsive, engaging. Ontarians are really seeing him in action. Now, how do I rate him? Well, to me, 100 out of 100 out of question. None of us perfect, and so is not Ford. But if I am to rate in terms of category, I guess there are a lot more to do. I think he's doing fantastic as of now. He did really well. And so I would end with a rating of A. Ford, at this point in time, Mr. Ford, you have done really well. You earned my respect and looks like you have earned the respect of many. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for my next political discourse. Goodbye. Bye-bye.